Hi everyone, I hope you are keeping well. It's been a long time since I created a video like this. It's been a busy couple of months and I've just moved into a new house. In fact, this is going to be my home studio. It's still very much a work in progress. I'm bringing in all sorts of art supplies and playing around with how I arrange things. And I hope to create a video about that very soon. But today I want to talk about planning, and in particular, how you can plan out your creative year ahead. So with the end of the year fast approaching, this is the perfect opportunity to spend some time with what did you do this year and what do you want to do next year. I often get asked how I approach planning, and to be honest, I think I've tried every different kind of way that you could do this, from using paper journals to various different online tools, and I've finally settled on something that really works for me. And of course, everyone's different and you might find that this works for you or it doesn't, and that's totally okay. But I wanted to share with you how I use the tool Trello as a very key part of my planning for the year. So how would I describe Trello? It's kind of like a pin-up board and a planner and a database all combined into one. So it is an online tool, but it is very user-friendly and it's also visually appealing. So you can customize it and use photographs and labels and make it look how you want, which I think as an artist is very important, because I know there's all sorts of tools out there and when I open them, they're just various shades of grey, and to be honest, I just can't use those kind of things. So maybe you'll relate to that. So Trello is something that I use in conjunction with, writing notes and using my journals and things like that. But what I love about Trello is I can capture all of my ideas in one place. It's very portable. I can log on to it on my laptop or use my phone. And the biggest thing that I find helpful is that it is super flexible. So when things change, which is inevitable, and particularly over the last year, we've all had to adapt to living with a pandemic. And I know that in my creative life, things have certainly been a bit all over the place this year. And it's been wonderful to have a tool where it's so easy to shift things around and change dates. It's very adaptable and flexible. And when I take you into my Trello, you will see what I mean. So rather than talk about it, how about I show you? So let's head over to my desk and I'll take you into my Trello and talk about how I get ready for the year ahead, set goals, and begin to fill out my 12-month plan. Before I set up my Trello, I always spend time in my notebook, and usually I just get out something simple. This is a moleskin, and I answer some questions. And every year the questions are a little bit different, but they always have the same kind of general vibe. So I start by reflecting on the year and particularly looking at what worked well. And there's various different perspectives that you could consider this from. So I like to think about what I enjoyed the most, what was profitable, so this will be relevant if you run a business. I also look at what was rewarding, because sometimes you will have done something that wasn't particularly enjoyable as you were doing it, but the feeling of satisfaction when you are able to tick that off and complete it is worth it, and it's very motivating. So have a think about what worked well for you this year. And then you probably know what's next. The flip side of that is, where did you stumble and get stuck? And there's so much good information when you look at that area. Where did you sort of feel like it was really hard, or maybe you didn't do something that you thought you would? And sometimes when you look at it and reflect on the reason why, you realize that you didn't do that thing for a very good reason. And it might have been about protecting your well-being. And I can think of examples of that because I tend to jump into the year with a lot of enthusiasm is probably one way of putting it, and bite off a bit more than I can chew. So there's always one or two things that I didn't get to, and I like to take a moment to be gentle with myself with that and see what I can learn. And if I want to put it into practice in the next year, then I can add that into my plan. And the reason I wanted to mention that is because sometimes there are things that you need to let go of. So it's not actually about bringing it into your plan, it's actually about getting comfortable with letting that thing go. The next thing is one that number-loving people will enjoy and other people will kind of not even want to go there. But I encourage you to look at your numbers. And when I say numbers, I mean all kinds of different numbers. If you are running a business, some of the obvious ones are to look at your sales, your expenses, and your profits, because there's a lot of information there. Then you can also look at your marketing figures. So things like your Instagram followers, your Instagram engagement, Pinterest, Facebook, YouTube, whatever platforms you are on, your email subscriber list. Have a look at what it was at the beginning of the year and what it is now and what the growth was. You can also look at what did you create this year? How many paintings did you make? What exhibitions were you involved in? Did you enter art prizes? Start to kind of catalog everything that you did. And this is a good opportunity to celebrate because you'll often realize that you did way more than you thought. So once you've looked back, now you can start looking forward. And this is the fun part where you can get into your dreams and goals and what it is you truly want to do in the year ahead. So there's a few questions I like to ask myself, and answers to these questions inform what it is that I take on for the year. So it's a very important step. Don't rush over it. Really get into what it is that you want to feel as an artist, because these sorts of things will guide you. So you'll see here some of the questions that I ask myself. So I mentioned before about how you feel as an artist. And then I also like to look at what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind. And this will offer up some interesting and different perspectives that you can take into account when setting your goals. With your goals, be as specific as possible. Try and set time frames and clear outcomes for yourself. And I like to set different categories of goals. So I have business goals that relate to the creative products that I want to put out. I have marketing goals, and these relate to things like growing my Instagram or my email list, and then a lifestyle goal or two, depending on which way you want to approach it. And this for me usually involves making sure that I have enough time for rest and relaxation. So once you've done your groundwork, that's when you head over to Trello and you put all this detail into Trello and set up your board so that it can become something that is very organic, that you go in and out and update as you progress through the year. Okay, so here we are in Trello, and I've opened up one of my boards, which is called Goals. And you can see here, I've also got up the top my word of the year, which for this year was alignment. So the way Trello works is that you have boards for different topics, and then within a board you can create lists. So each one of these columns is a list, and under each list you can add cards. So each one of these little boxes is a card, and you can keep it very simple with just a note, or you can add in more detailed description. You can really add in as much as you want. So there are labels, checklists, due dates, attachments. That's what I love about Trello, is that you can have it very simple or you can have it detailed. But we'll keep it simple for now. So you can see here that I have added in some of the answers to those questions that I ask myself. So under legacy, I've put some ideas around how I would like to be remembered or known as an artist. So at the top there it says, a person that helps artists to grow in confidence. And when I say that, I mean both in making art, but also in running a creative business. So that's the kind of legacy that I would like to leave behind. And also being a provider of valuable resources, an online educator and encourager, and promoting the idea that art is for everyone. So having that at the beginning makes sure that I stay on track with that idea or vision that I have for my creative life. Then I have my business goals, so I will write down how much I want to make in revenue for the year. I will also put down key projects that I want to undertake. So for this year, I had create and launch a 6-week watercolor painting e-course, which is what ended up being the modern mixed media e-course. But I also had another 6-week acrylic painting e-course planned, and it did not happen. So there it is sitting there in red. So that's something that I can reflect on and decide whether I want to do in the following year, or maybe it's something I want to let go. A few other things there that I had were around increasing passive income through an evergreen strategy, which is just a fancy way of saying promoting the classes that I already have. Moving on over here, I have marketing goals, and so I have things like increasing my website traffic, my email subscriber list, Facebook page, Instagram followers, and all those kind of things. And I put in numbers around those. Over here I have some templates that I use throughout the year. The main two ones that I use are my online class checklist and my podcast checklist. So if you go into that and open it, you can see how wonderful Trello is for creating checklists for things that you need to put out into the world, and there's all sorts of different little steps that you take. So you can see that there, and it goes through everything from recording the podcast right through to sharing it over on Facebook. So at the beginning of this year, I set myself a little schedule. So I had to think about what would I like to do on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When was I going to have time off? When would I record the podcast? Things like that. It's a very loose, rough plan. I've also got a list here of education. And this is an interesting one. It's where I put down topics that I'm interested in learning more about during the year. So things like podcasting, email marketing, financial management, Facebook advertising. So I note down areas where I could get some better skills. And then I also have processes. So are there things that I could improve about the way that I do things? So a couple of them here, I won't go through all of them or this will take all day, but I had a process for making sure that I have regular time for painting and freely exploring ideas. A podcast plan writing process. A weekly content creation process. Those sorts of things, a daily routine with an early start. So I put in here any things that I'd like to streamline or do better. And then over here I have a processes done column. So these are things that I've actually done. So that's the goal setting board. Let's move into the plan. So I have another board, and this is for the 12-month plan. And the way that I set this up is to create a list for every month of the year. So I begin with January right through to December. And the very first thing that I do is put in any key dates. So you'll see on the top here, I have the school holidays marked in, I have birthdays, I have when my husband Richie is going to be away, I have when the taxes are due, so I make sure that I set aside some time for that kind of work. Not something that I like doing, but I have to do it. And then once I have the set dates in, so if you have any kind of exhibitions or workshops or things like that you can put them in. And with Trello, you can always set yourself a due date so the dates show up. So that's very easy. And once I have that done, I begin to flesh out my plans. So the goals that I've set for myself. So if I am creating a new resource, for example, I will start putting in when I'm going to do the work. If you have a look at this year, you can see that I began planning for the watercolor e-course in January. That continued through into February. We began filming in March. We continued filming through April and May. It was a big project. And then in June, we started to advertise and promote, and it went live on the 1st of July. I've also got other things in here, like the classes that I already have. So I mentioned before that evergreen strategy of promoting things that I've already created. Well, this year I promoted a class every month, and that's called the 20 in 2020 because there was 20% off for that month. And you can see here that I've got that in for each month. So here is the 20 in 2020 in January, and it was abstract adventuring. What else? Other things I would put in here are like commissions and things like that. So you can see that I did some work with anthropology in February. I also did what else? Here I have where I was doing some artwork for Case Me, which was the phone case company. But I do try and keep this fairly simple. So I don't put all my daily tasks in here. Even the podcast isn't in here because I have a separate page where I plan out the podcast. But it's mainly those bigger projects. So one of the reasons that I love Trello is because you can easily copy information, and I'll show you what I do when I set up my working board. So this is my monthly plan and the one that I open up every day when I go into the studio to see what I have going on that month. So actually what I do here is I don't copy the list, I move it. So when you scroll through this 12-month plan, the December column is missing, and the reason for that is because I have moved this list. I've clicked Move List, and I've moved it over to my working board, which is called the Planner. And I put it at the front here. So the first column here is what I've got on for this month. And then I have my December content list. So that's the podcast episodes that I'm working on, or any other content like vlogs and videos like that. And then I have my to-do list. And this is where I put my weekly tasks. And then I have a column for when they're done. And I also have a personal column. And in the personal column, I'll put anything like haircuts, dental appointments, and things like that. And I used to have a much more complex planner, but I've found that keeping it simple like this works best for me. So when I have finished tasks in my to-do list, I just move them over here so I can see what I've done each week. So you can see here, I'll just put that back. On the to-do list for this week, I have the free Trello video that I'm recording right now. I have set some dates for Modern Mixed Media, which is that 6-week e-course that we created this year. So we're going to run that again next year. And I also have set up my home studio, which I am kind of doing at the moment. There's some things in place, but still art supplies to bring in. So that's pretty much it, and I wanted to share it with you because it's a very interactive and simple way of working, but it also offers you the opportunity to add in lots of detail if you want to. So I think because of that, it will suit people who approach things in different ways. So if you want to, you can build it out and you can open up one of the cards, you can add a checklist, you can link files, you can add images, you can do all sorts of things. If you work with a team, you can connect it up so other people can access it. It has a lot of capability, but you can also keep it very, very simple. And you could use something like Trello to plan out a body of work, or even something like planning out your veggie garden. Like it can be used for personal projects or travel or anything like that as well. So I love that this is a tool that can do everything and operate at different kinds of levels. So I hope that you found it helpful, and it encourages you to get your journal out and create some space to think about this year and plan for the future. I find that it's a very enjoyable process. Make yourself a cup of tea, put on a few, candles or some nice music, and enjoy spending that time planning and dreaming up ideas for your creative life.